Hello, my name is Bill Haley, and this is for Haley 2024, The Movements, Government Reform Ideas. Now, this video is going to be the longer version of talking about my competitive currency. So what we're doing is 1,000 competitive currencies, fully backed up, each one fully backed up, and their valuations have standardized units. So I did 9 videos. This is still December of 2021, doing 9 videos, each one broken down to a portion of explaining this. So this video is going to put all 9 together, and I'm going to target about 45 minutes to an hour. I'm going to run through it a little bit faster than I ran through the individual descriptions of the different parts because I wanted to give a little bit more explanation on those. So I'm going to run through it a little bit faster. So Haley 2024 calls for competitive governance in many areas, in almost every area, really. And then for banking, that's no difference. So every bank gets to choose which financial bank regulatory agency they want to go with. Now, if they pick one with low standards, the customers are going to know about it through the rating system I have, and they're not going to get the customers. People are going to, the banks are going to compete for your business by giving you the best services and customer protections. If you don't have customer protections, they're going to go elsewhere. And the consumers are going to have the information from the other structure of the rating system that they need to do the proper evaluation of who they want to do business with. Anyway, let's go through this a little bit. The 9-part explanation, where I did a separate video in each one of these, and all this will be on my website in December of 2021. And I'm going to try to put it on all my social media sites by the end of 2021 here. I'm creating this, I believe it's 12th, of December right now, 2021. So the first one was creating a monetary currency asset portfolio. We're going to go over that. The operations of MCAP. I love the word MCAP as short for monetary currency asset portfolio. Capital being a big part of what monetary policy is. And so it turned out to be a great name for it. So the operations of MCAP, the back dollar being the average of all of them. How do we have one standard valuation of the units? Then we're going to have gain and loss because we're putting things into the asset portfolio that's going to change in value within the trading market. Everything always changes in value. You can never have that stable. But when you do it on the average of everything, it will be extremely stable. MCAP settling up. How do we settle up? Assets of an MCAP. We're going to discuss what can go into an MCAP, which is going to be very broad. Keeping the valuation of the assets honest, and we're going to discuss how we can do that. The Federal Reserve and the transition. How do we do a transition? And then just a practical use of the MCAP, or the competitive currencies. A little bit more I wanted to say about it. A little bit of a wrap up, and then we'll discuss the full CRA structure very rapidly at the end of the video. So let's go through it. The first one was creating a monetary currency asset portfolio. Let's go through each one of those words real quick. Monetary, dealing with money. Currency, obviously dealing with money as well. Assets, things of worth, and a portfolio, a grouping together of a lot of things of worth. Now, we don't just do one thing of worth because that could fluctuate in value as well. And if you get a lot of things, the average does not fluctuate because the average is the average. And if you have people competing on getting the most stable currency, then we're going to get the most stable of assets within these MCAPs. So just the market value, the structure of the system gets very, very stable. Inflation is not going to be possible underneath the system at all because everything has to be fully backed up, very strictly fully backed up. So creating an MCAP, and MCAP is just a cool name because it sounds like capital, even though capital is not in the definition. MCAP is just a really neat name that it turned out to be. Okay, starts with the empty storeroom. Before you put anything in, you start with the empty storeroom. Then you start adding assets. I'll go ahead and say some of the assets right now. Stocks, bonds, precious metals, loans, commodities, stuff like that. You're going to add those things into the storeroom. And then as you add items to the storeroom, you issue currency based on that exact worth. So if an ounce of gold, you add an ounce of gold, and let's say the worth is exactly $1,500 in the trading market, then you can issue $1,500 more currency. Then you add a loan worth $10,000 for a car loan, let's say, and then you can offer $10,000 worth, issue $10,000 worth of currency. And as that car loan is paid back, that currency has to disappear when it goes back because the loan drops in value every month as the payments are being made. So it can be done that way. The currency goes to the person that deposited the item of worth. So it's always an even exchange. Everything that we do is an even exchange. So if I say something that sounds a little weird, like I'm forcing somebody to give up money or something, no, it's always an even exchange. The holder of the currency are the owners of the items of worth in the MCAP. So whoever owns the currency have ownership rights of what's in the MCAP. Now, obviously, if you own 1% of the currency from that MCAP, you own 1% of the MCAP. Now, obviously, not many people are going to be 1%. Maybe a super, super wealthy guy will, but that's probably not even going to be the case anyway, because he'll diversify his money over many different areas and many different MCAPs at that point, just for security purposes and fluctuation purposes and insurance purposes and the like. A unit of currency is worth a percentage of the MCAP. So it's very fundamental that a unit of currency is worth a percentage. And that's a percentage is 100 over than the number of units of currency issued. And you can only issue as much currency as the worth of the items in the MCAP. An MCAP valued at $100 billion or 100 billion BD, and we'll use BD instead of dollars because we switched to a BD backed dollar, and that's the average of all of them. Everybody has to match their units valuation to the BD, to the average. Can issue 100 billion units of their currency. All items in the MCAP must be publicly listed with their price per item. So, and where it's at, physically, what location, what city, what building, where's those assets at. And all these assets will be all over the state and sometimes all over the country. But at least all over the state within every city. So people have access to go to get actually things out of the storeroom with their currency. And if they do, the currency disappears because the asset was taken out of the storeroom. The MCAP. If I say storeroom, that means MCAP. I'll go back and forth because I want people to start understanding that an MCAP is a storeroom of a portfolio of assets. Okay. Used for currency, monetary currency. Okay. That's what a MCAP stands for. Okay. So this is the second video I've done, the operation of an MCAP. Buyers and sellers will exchange the CRA currency in the regular economy. You do your shopping back and forth. Whoever owns that currency has right to go get assets. So it's always going to keep its value. And you can always go get it if you want to. You can always test it out and get it. But people are just going to go to the regular stores and do your regular business. People will get paid their salary with a certain currency. You can put it into a bank and then switch it over to your currency because that's what banks do. I'll explain that in the next couple videos here called Settling Up. But that's not going to be a problem with this. And you'll see by the end of the video how all that works. But we buy and trade. We trade our currency for goods and services back and forth. For your work services, for services for working on your car or buying something at Walmart, buying something at whatever store. You're buying things. You're trading your currency. And that currency always gets converted back to the currency that the seller, the person who receives the currency from you buying them, it'll be converted over to their currency. And that's all in the sell up mode. And I have a full mode for that, full system for that. The owner of the CRA currency always has the ownership rights to exchange the appropriate amount of CRA currency for any asset in the MCAP. So you can go in there and grab any asset you want to, appropriate amount of currency, obviously. So if you have 1,500 units of currency, you can go get that ounce of gold. Whatever you want. If you want to buy a loan contract worth $10,000, you can go buy that loan contract, and that person will be paying. You have to stay within your loan contract, so nobody's going to want to buy a loan contract. Maybe another MCAP or a big business might want to buy a loan contract, but you're paying your loan payments to them now because they bought that contract. But you have to stay within that same contract. You can't change the terms, and that'll all be worked out. You have to have a realistic business plan to be able to buy a loan contract. You can't just buy a loan contract as an individual easily, because the loan contract's going to state it has to be an established loan type of business that accepts it in, that can honor the terms of the contract. Anyway, going a little bit off target, but that just shows you that we're dealing with contract. Ownership rights of a piece of real estate that's out for rent. Yeah, the owner can't just go into that property unless certain things happen. The renter has certain rights. And that's the same thing with all these contracts. Everybody's going to, the contract terms are going to be super important. But you still have ownership rights. And that ownership rights has real worth. Okay. As more assets are added to a MCAP, each unit of CRA currency is worth a smaller percentage of the MCAP to accurately keep the worth of each unit of the CRA currency the same. New CRA currency is created based on the additional assets deposited in the MCAP. So new currency is always being created constantly. New currency is always being created. Also, currency is always being turned back in and vanishing as well. So there's a lot to be, when you pay back a loan, that currency vanishes because the loan value drops every time you do it. Now, obviously, there's the interest part and the principal part. The principal part, that drops. The interest part goes to profits and insurability, risk pools, and servicing the loan and the like. CRA currencies that is traded in for an asset from the MCAP becomes worthless because you trade it in. You go grab that ounce of gold, that MCAP has $1,500 less worth to it, so the currency has to vanish. And that, so that's that. But they got the currency back that it was based off of, so we're all even now. Because the worth was taken away from the MCAP. The unit of CRA currency turned in for the asset vanishes. The holder of CRA currency has the right to pick any appropriately priced asset in the MCAP. I'm sorry if I'm saying it over again, but it's just important to make sure people realize what we're trying to say, and I'm saying it a few different ways on purpose. Many locations in every city will have assets from the MCAP for easy accessibility. Every unit of CRA currency derives its value from the assets in the MCAP. That is vital to understand. Every unit of CRA currency derives its value from the assets in the MCAP. It always has to. The value of the unit of currency is the value of the complete MCAP divided by the number of units of the CRA currency issued. Straightforward. If people traded all their CRA currency for assets, the last unit of CRA currency would take the last asset from the MCAP. Highly important to understand that aspect right there. The last unit of currency takes the last asset. Okay, this is a third video I did. This is the third aspect of it, the back dollar, dealing with the average. Now, this is federal level. This deals with all 1,000 currencies. Now, it could be as low as 500 currencies, probably as many as 4,000 or 5,000 currencies. I'm going to say 1,000 because we're most likely going to be at least 100 states within my constitutional reforms I have. We're going to gain states, not by adding territories necessarily, but by states splitting apart, becoming 2 states, 3 states for California, New York, Florida, Texas, whatever. They'll probably be splitting apart which is fine, no problem there. We take away a lot of federal power, so that's not going to be a problem anyway, that's another issue. I deal with a lot of that within the other reforms I have within Haley 2024. Okay, the back dollar and syncing the values. Let's just go through it. An MCAP must synchronize the value of a unit of its currency with the back dollar, which is the average. Back dollar is the BD, so if I say BD, it's the back dollar, and that's always the average of all of them, and all the currencies have to synchronize the valuation unit. Synchronize the valuation of each unit. Only state banking CRAs can have an MCAP in currency. So states MCAPs, not local, not federal, state MCAPs. And only the federal sector board deals with all of it. So I go outside of my normal CRA structure. It never goes outside of it, but I don't give a lot of power to the federal CRAs on this one. A little bit because they're going to supply the personnel to the federal level. Again, look at the full CRA structure for that. I'm going a little bit off balance here, rabbit trails. Anyway, only state banking has MCAPs, and the federal sector board deals with all of them, has an account with all of them, and make sure all of them are doing what they're supposed to be doing. The rating system will make sure they have the proper level of integrity and doing what they're supposed to be doing as well. So I have different aspects, one dealing with integrity issues, one dealing with just making sure they're within their boundaries. They have very high liberty to do what they want to do within the boundaries. The boundaries are pretty wide open, but they have to be fully backed up. That's one of the boundaries. Everything has to be 100% backed up. You cannot just say, I have issue $1 million units of currency without the assets. That's not allowed. So that's what I'm talking about within the limitations. And a few more limitations, but what the assets are, that's almost wide open. As long as they're honest and they can meet the rating floors on honesty and integrity on that. Okay. Only the federal sector board creates physical paper and coin. Everything else is digital, by the way, because you need to be digital because you lose or gain units of currency when what you have changes value. What you own doesn't change. What you own changes value. So very important to understand that one. The federal level bank CRA sector board will acquire digital CRA currency proportionally from all the state MCAPs as a base of the bank sector board's currency named the back dollar. So the BD will be 100% backed up with CRA currency, with the MCAP currencies. So that's highly important, and if that proportionality is highly important. If people demand to hold 10% of all money in coin and paper, then every CRA will have to turn in currency, and then they get the money. When I say turn in their currency in exchange for the BD, say in exchange for that paper and the coin to give out to their customers who want to use paper and coin. Otherwise, you have you have digital, but you have very strong privacy protections, even to the point of being totally anonymous, and even anonymous to the point to that to your bank if need be. But I have very strong Fourth Amendment protections on being secure in your papers and anonymous bank accounts and the like. We can deal with illegal activity, drug dealing and all that other illegal activity in other places, but we need to have our Fourth Amendment rights. 100, let me make sure I got that right. Yeah, that's, if you want to stop, pause, and read that, you can again, but it's all, but if you want to really read all the bullet points, go to my website, go to my monetary page, and I have four pages of really good bullet points that describe everything perfectly. And then I have a constitutional amendment that's about 1.5 pages that really goes through bullet points on how to create it constitutionally. Okay, here we go. 100 states, likely more. 10 currencies per state, roughly 1,000. Just to make the numbers easy right now, let's just assume 1,000. It doesn't matter if it goes up to 2 or 3 or 4,000. It doesn't matter whether it goes down to 400 or 500. This is something that can happen here. Let's just, to keep consistency and to understanding, let's just say 1,000 for the rest of the video. But if it's more, the numbers has changed. No biggie. Americans can do business with any state's currency or bank. So anybody living in New York can do business with Alaska's MCAPs, or anywhere else they want to. You can do business wherever you want to do business. There's no restrictions on that. A federal level Sector 19 CRA sector board must create the paper and coin currency fully backed up proportionally with state level CRA currencies named the back dollar. So we have 30 sectors altogether. I split government power into 30 sectors. Sector 19 is the banking sector. And they create the paper and coin currency. And it's fully backed up, like I said. Fully backed up proportionally. I just wanted to stress this one area. Fully backed up proportionally with state level CRA currencies from their MCAPs. CRA currencies means from their MCAPs. The BD is the average of all CRA currencies since the BD proportionally holds CRA currencies from the MCAP. So it's an average because it's proportional. The BD will be the currency of physical paper and coin, while all the other CRA currencies will be digital. The reason for that is the CRA, it could be coin and paper because that never adjusts. That never changes. That valuation is going to be the average. The other one's you're gonna have to increase unit amounts all the time. So somebody's bank account for digital bank account is going to go up and down, probably less than 1/10% per day. Very rarely will you get above that, and doubtful that you're going to get above 1% over a month, even 1% above or below. So unless you have a very bad currency, you're not going to be losing value. It'd be fluctuating that little range right there. Some people will want their money in an MCAP digital currency, and other people will prefer all or some of their money in physical paper or coin. Physical paper or coin, if you have your account in a BD, and there'll be accounts out there that just go for BD, 100% stable, no change whatsoever. If somebody wants the physical BD, they trade their digital MCAP currency for the BD. So you don't own both the BD and your physical and MCAP. Well, you can own both, but not with the same valuation, not with the same dollars. You have to turn in your MCAP currency for the BD. So you can own both, but if you have $100 in BD and $100, you have $200 worth of stuff. You had $200 worth of MCAP currency. You trade $100 of it to get the BD. So now you have 100 of BD MCAP currency, 100 of the BD. The BD must be fully backed up with MCAP currency. So I say it over and over and over again. The bank facilitates the exchange. So when I talk about a lot of things, I just want you to understand, technically, it's somebody going to the federal sector board. Now, obviously, the banks are going to facilitate it to the MCAP, and the MCAP is going to facilitate it with the federal sector board. They get facilitated, but just for the purposes of a person wanting the BD, they go to the federal sector board to change their money in. But it's going to be facilitated through the local banks. A bank facilitates the exchange of MCAP's currency for the BD, both ways, coming and going. The bank/MCAP must send or receive back MCAP currency to and from the federal sector board. So the federal sector board is going to be clearinghouse where everybody sends up everybody else's currency. It sorts back out and digitally sends it back to, sends that MCAP's currency back to them. Now, it's not going to be the same. Well, maybe I'm going, I'll get there in a second. Let me not go outside of my PowerPoint here. Okay, the marketplace will post prices as BD. We'll get to what I was getting ready to explain in a minute. I want to do it through this one. Gain and loss was my 4th video out of 9, so I guess I'm 4/9 of the way through this. I'll probably be about an hour, I think. Okay, gain and loss. MCAP adjusts in value in 2 ways. First, it can gain or lose assets. It's going to be doing that all day long. Second, existing assets can gain or lose value. So if you have gold in there, gold fluctuates in value, as you know. Stocks, Amazon, Exxon, all the stocks, they gain and lose value on a daily basis. So what you own is not going to change. What you own changes in value. The value of an MCAP adjusts daily as the value of every asset in the MCAP changes in the market value in the trading markets. Every CRA currency must continuously adjust their number of currency units so that each currency unit's value matches the BD unit's value. Again, this is going to be probably very slight adjustments. And if you don't like the amount is fluctuating, you can get an account with the BD or go with another one that has stabilizers on it. We're going to have financial instruments called financial stabilizers for the MCAPs that's willing to take more of a fluctuation so the stability can be even greater. The rest of this section deals with I'm going to go with about 4 or 5 slides dealing with the assets changing in value, not assets going in and out of the MCAP. So the rest of the section deals with existing assets gaining or losing value, such as gold or stocks adjusting in the trading market. If an MCAP gains value compared to the average, that MCAP gains units of CRA currency. If an MCAP loses value compared to the average, that MCAP loses units of its CRA currency. The owner of a CRA currency do not lose or gain what they own. What they own loses or gains value compared to the average of all the assets in the MCAP. The owner of a unit of CRA currency still owns the same percentage of the assets in their MCAP. If an MCAP loses 1% value, which is that 1% is just so you can have a better understanding. It's not going to be that much on it 99% of the time. If an MCAP loses 1% of the value compared to the average of all MCAPs, then those holding that MCAP digital CRA currency lose roughly 1%, because the math is a little bit different when you lose 1%, lose 1% of their units of CRA currency. The gains and losses will balance out over 1,000 currencies daily. So when you talk about all of them, they balance out. That's why there cannot be inflation of the BD. Your currency, you might have a bum currency and they lose value. Let's say you lose 1% value per month. That's a bum currency. You don't want to deal with that currency. You want to change to a better currency. And free market forces, that's free market accountability forces. Everybody, they'll have to go out of business if they're constantly losing 1% a month. So they're just going to go out. You're going to have really good currency managers, because otherwise they're going to be out of business. Okay. This is just a review. Here, I've already talked about the creating a monetary currency asset portfolio. We talked about the operations of the MCAP. We talked about the back dollar and how they sink in value. We just talked about the gain and loss in value. Now we're going to talk about the selling up, how MCAPs settle up. Then we're going to talk more about the assets of the MCAP. We're going to talk about keeping the assets values honest, the Federal Reserve and the SWIFT transition, and the practical use of the competition. I just wanted to review, because we're halfway through, where we're sitting. So let's go over MCAP settling up. Because in the market, as you trade back and forth, people are going to have currencies from all the other currencies. And you're going to deposit it in your bank. Your bank's going to give it up to the MCAP. The MCAP's going to send it up to the Federal Sector Board. And then the Federal Sector Boards will sort it all out, bring it back. let's just go through it so I don't get ahead of myself. MCAP's settling up. For a better understanding, let's assume there's 2 MCAPs for a minute. Once you're 1,000, your brain cannot comprehend or keep track of what goes on with 1,000. So let's just understand 2 MCAPs for a minute. A person with the MCAP A currency buys a car for $20,000 from a business, from a car dealership, that turns it into a bank using the MCAP B currency. The person gained a $20,000 car and lost $20,000 of MCAP currency. So very simple trade. That's what you do when you have $20,000. Then you lose that $20,000 and you have a car. On the other side, the business lost a car and gained $20,000 of currency. But this time, what we're dealing with is, well, one person, they gave them currency A, but that business wants to use currency B. The business lost a $20,000 car and gained $20,000 of MCAP A currency. The business wants to convert their ownership rights from MCAP A to MCAP B. On behalf of the business, the MCAP B has ownership rights to $20,000 of MCAP A. MCAP B, quote unquote, buys. He has ownership rights to exchange, to go get the valuation, go get assets from MCAP A. They have that ownership rights because MCAP has that currency. So they go get that assets. I say in quotes, buys, but it's an exchanging for their ownership rights. They have ownership rights to $20,000 worth of assets from currency A. So that's it for that explanation of the two currencies. That's what happens because one MCAP gained $20,000 of units, but the person who lost all that currency, they now have a car. That's what a currency is. Okay, with 1,000 currencies in America, every bank will likely receive hundreds of different currencies daily. So 2, you can understand, you can wrap your brain around when you have only a few things happening, but millions of things are going to happen simultaneously with 1,000 different currencies. But it can be done mathematically, accounting. It's going to be very, very straightforward accounting. It'd be hard for some people to wrap their brain around it. Other people can wrap their brain around it. It took me a while just to wrap my brain around, okay, is this going to work? Can the Federal Sector Board really do this by going the light, heavy system I have set up? And those other systems to do it if they wanted to go a little bit differently. But it'd be probably roughly what I'm talking about. Okay. Okay, we talked about that. Every currency from the constitutionally established MCAP. So let's just get this out of the way. To have a currency, you have to be constitutionally eligible to have a currency. And then if you're constitutionally capable or eligible to have it, 5% of a state's money, 5% of the banks dealing with that, picking that regulatory agency, then you can have a currency. That's what, there's a little bit more to it, but that's basically it. You get 5% of the banks, money-wise or whatever, that wants to be regulated by the CRA, then you can have a CRA. You can have then that CRA has a currency for that state. Okay, every currency from a constitutionally established MCAP, so that's out of the way now. If I say MCAP, that automatically means it was eligible to be an MCAP. You cannot do a currency unless you are constitutionally eligible to do it. You're doing it under the correct things. If you want to have a Bitcoin currency, go for it. There'll be enough people who wants to use it. Just put it into one of the states, put all that Bitcoin into one of the MCAPs and go for it. And it could be legal tender, and it'll work just like anything else. Okay. Then, but if it's constitutionally accepted and it's above the rating floor, that means it's already been established that it's credible, it's honest, it has integrity, it has real assets. There's audits and it's transparent, it has real assets you can go get, and so it could be legal tender. So all the guesswork of somebody says, oh, I don't like that currency, I'm not going to accept that currency. No, it has to be legal tender and must be accepted. You're going to reject them for other reasons, but but you can't reject them because of they want to pay with a certain currency, as long as it's constantly established currency. Okay, that out of the way. Every bank turns in all their currencies to their state MCAP. So all the banks, as the money comes in, it goes through the banks to the MCAP, and the MCAP is going to have all the different currencies throughout America in its possession. Through the accounts. They're going to have ownership rights to it, obviously on behalf of the owners of the currency, so and people with bank accounts and stuff. So they'll turn it all into the Federal Sector Board. It'll get all sorted out, and their MCAP, their money will come back towards them. But obviously, that's not going to equal out, because just like the car situation I did a minute ago, $20,000. One MCAP got $20,000 more than the other MCAP. One MCAP lost $20,000, the other MCAP gained $20,000. Okay. Every state MCAP turns all their currency, except their own, to the federal BD. When I say the federal BD, I mean the Federal Sector Board. The Federal Sector Board creates the BD. The federal BD returns currency to their correct state MCAP daily. So it all goes up, it all comes back down to the right ones. All MCAPs are either heavy or light. Now, that terminology might not mean anything to you, but if you send up, they say 100 units of everybody else's currency, and you only get back 99 units of currency of yours, that means you're heavy. You turned in more than you got back. So you still have one more unit of currency you get to go out there and grab. So you take that unit of currency and you go get assets from the people who are light. Some people turned in 99 up and got back 100 back, and somebody else has ownership rights over one more unit of their currency. So the people who are heavy, they get assets from the people who are light on a daily basis. Now, everybody will probably have a little bit of a buffer, so it's not going to be that big of a problem. But on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, MCAP's going to be shopping, or people shop from them. They shop for assets from other MCAPs because they have money. Other ones, their customers lost money overall. On average, they lost money, and people get to shop their assets. So assets are either leaving the MCAPs or going to the MCAPs all the time. So it seems super complicated, and because several things are happening at one time, it can be complicated. But it's all simple accounting, super simple accounting, but it seems complicated because, first of all, you're dealing with 1,000 or more currencies. You're dealing with assets coming in and out of a MCAP. You're dealing with the making sure you have proportional backing of the BD, and then you have money going more towards one BD or another BD. More one MCAP versus another. You're heavy or light. So a lot of things going on, but super simple accounting. There could be I'm not the super accountant, but I worked it out, and it can be done with simple accounting. Be very straightforward and mechanical, not a lot of subjective decisions made by the Federal Sector Board. The rating system, making sure things are honest pricing, they're subjective over here a little bit, but it's very straight accounting over on the Federal Sector Board creating the BD. Okay, let's read this. All MCAPs are either heavy or light. For several reasons we just were discussing, mean that if a state's MCAP turns in 100 million units of currency to the BD and only gets back 99 million of its currency, they are heavy and do 1 million more units. Over 1,000 MCAPs, the heavy and lights will exactly balance out, always. It has to balance out exactly. Simple accounting, it always goes to zero. That's why the BD will always be super, super stable. And especially with BDs wanting the most stable assets, gold and stocks and bonds and not penny stocks necessarily, because those fluctuate a lot. They want the steady assets, good loans. They don't want to give $1 million loan to somebody making minimum wage without the ability to pay back, because they know their customers, their people who use their currency, they're going to be taking a hit. Not everybody across the world. Only the people using their currency is going to take that hit from that bad loan. So good loans, good underwriting procedures and stuff. Okay, heavy MCAPs will be able to, quote unquote, shop, use their ownership rights of currencies to buy assets from the light MCAPs. Now, they don't have to necessarily buy it from the light MCAPs. They can buy it from anywhere. People go anywhere and buy whatever they want to. They can go out there in the open market and just buy stocks, bonds, real estate, whatever they want to. The other people that were light, they're going to have to start selling off their assets or something, because they don't have ownership rights to that anymore. Somebody else had ownership rights to that. The heavy MCAPs had ownership rights, the currency of the light MCAPs. So most likely it's going to be staying within the heavy and light MCAPs, and they'll just be trading assets back and forth. It's the easiest way. And if everybody has constitutionally protected above the rating floor, it'll be enough within the trading markets that people are willing to buy these. If somebody stays light all the time, yeah, they're going to have to make sure their pricing is very, very honest. They have enough regular things in the good stock market. When I say good stock market, not penny stocks, but a regular stock market with regular valuations or honest evaluations. Okay, the BD must be fully backed up proportionally with state-level CRA currencies. So important that we understand everybody has to be backed up and it has to be proportional. Since it's 1,000, nope, it'd be unlikely that one currency would be more than 1%. Maybe one or two might approach 1%, but most of them are going to be below that 10%, tenth of 1%. Or I guess that would be the average, is tenth of 1%. Okay, thus proportionality will constantly be moving out of balance. So again, the light and heavy thing will come into play again. That'd be part of the daily light and heavy, because of proportionality. So those accounts that Federal Sector Board dealing with the BD, they'll be able to just increase one person's account, decrease another person's account, and then they use those BDs to go out and quote unquote shop and move assets around. And there'll be ways to do that digitally. Hey, I'm going to digitally grab that stock from you. I'm going to digitally, there might be storerooms where you actually have a physical warehouse with 1,000 different rooms, moving little gold coins or bars of coins from one room to another room. There's a lot of ways to do it. Okay, 9-part explanation of the monetary structure. This is the video 9. Assets of an MCAP. It's not very complicated, guys. Assets of an MCAP. They're going to have wide latitude on what to do, but most of it, a good amount of it's going to be within the trading market. So anything in the open trading market is going to be golden. Again, you don't want to go into the penny stock trading market too much. What I'm talking about trading markets are the more stable trading markets. the big, I'm not going to discuss which ones are the better ones, but the ones with more stability. Okay. A loan contract can be done without a problem. It has real value, and over time that value goes down as currency pays down that. And because of the loan value going down, the currency paying back the loan, at least the principal part, will reduce down the value of that loan, so the currency has to disappear, going to pay back the loan. Commodities, that's on the trading market. So commodities are an open thing. Obviously, we don't want to put a barrel of oil into a storage room. We buy the ownership rights to that barrel of oil. And that's done all the time right now. Stocks are obvious. Precious metals, that's obvious. Bonds, very stable. That's going to be obvious. Obviously, there's going to be different grades of bonds. Some cities are so overwhelmed well, if you talk about municipal bonds, some cities are too debt heavy, and you have to be careful about that. They might downgrade those to a grade B or grade C or whatever. Real estate, there's not going to be a problem as long as we get good appraisals and that constant appraisals come in. It might be a little bit more expensive, but people can put real estate in these things. Products and stores, it can happen. I have it on my video. I have on my website blogs showing how products and stores or products going through the supply chain can keep on getting more currency until that final product is sold in the supermarket or in whatever store, and then that value vanishes. The product gets taken out of the storeroom, the supermarket, and so the product comes out of the storeroom and the currency vanishes. So it can be done. A wide variety of contracts. Everything is contract, terms. People say if somebody owns a house and they rent it out, there's a contract. You have ownership rights to that house, but it's under a contract now where somebody else gets to use it. You can't just go in and take that house outside of the bounds of the terms of the contract. So that the terms of contracts are going to be for everything from a future loan, a futures market or something like that. There's a lot of contracts out there, a lot of terms for contracts. And a lot of contracts are going to deal with the charity economy. I haven't even got into the charity economy because that's another video for the charity system. So if you can't pay your loan back, you automatically get put to work in the charity economy within the terms of the contract. And that's going to give real value. The expected revenue of a clearly defined future tax. So that's going to have real value. That's how we're going to do any debt out there from government debt out there is expected revenue from a clearly defined future tax. That's also going to put some limitations on that, because if you get too high of a percentage of the GDP being taxed in the future, you're going to have Laffer effects, and that's not going to be well. So you're going to have natural market forces forcing a limitation on future taxes. And you have to check my whole system out for that. A share loan, which is a new type of loan I'm going to create, or I think that can be created, revenue from a percentage of a well-defined future earnings, whether it's lifetime earnings or whatever. This will be made for, let's say, education loan. Because it go total free enterprise education, or competitive governance on education. My thing is competitive school boards. Anyway, a share loan will be one way to pay for education, and then you get the upfront money to pay for your education. Then you say, I'll pay 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe even as much as 9 or 10% if you go through college of my future earnings, lifetime earnings, in exchange for paying for my education throughout the years. So it's an interesting model there. Okay, my 7th part. So in 48 minutes, I'll probably be about an hour and 10 minutes. I'll try to finish this up quickly. Keeping the value of assets honest. It's not going to be a big problem. Obviously, on the low side, nobody wants to price their stuff too low because they can go grab it really quick with ownership rights, getting that currency and going and takes a low-priced item. Nobody wants to put their go in there and go low. So, but if it's on the trading market, it has to be that market valuation on the trading market. Appraisals will have a rating floor levels for long-term accuracy. So if you appraise something, a piece of real estate that should be only $100,000, but you appraise it for $1 million, yeah, if you have long-term accuracy problems like that, you're going to be shut down. That's a fraud thing. That's a rating system is going to come in there and say, no, you have to be within reason. And if you start selling your items lower than what you had it listed, you're going to get rated low. MCAPs that sell assets unreasonably less than the listed price will have to discount their full currency. There's a lot of things. I say that as one way of doing it. There would be other ways probably that you don't have to do that. But if you consistently sell lower, your assets lower than what you had listed, then people aren't going to want to use your currency. The free enterprise accountability will be put out there and force people to price their stuff right. Okay, market forces. People will not want to use currency that continues to lose value. A variation of short sales on specific items could be utilized. And you can think about how short sales work. If you think something's too high of a price, then you sell short. And then if they have to sell that item for a lower amount, then that person doing the short sale can make some money. But if they sell for the full amount, then the person doing the short sale, they lose that bet. So there's specific ways to keep that value honest. Any entity holding the MCAP currency may demand any asset from the MCAP in exchange for the currency. That's the norm. That's a norm. Or they may demand the MCAP exchange the entity's currency for the BD. So if you say, I don't want anything in your currency, or in your storeroom, in your MCAP, go give me the BD, the paper or coin, then they have to do that. They have to sell their assets off into the market, and then they give the BD. Okay, the Federal Reserve and the transition. So the Federal Reserve, the U.S. dollar will transition away. We do a responsible transition. We give value to that to the current U.S. dollar. The Federal Reserve has things backing up the current U.S. dollar. They have the gold. They have mortgage-backed securities. They have a whole list of many, many hundreds, if not trillions of dollars worth of assets. So those things. Now, it's still not done the best. I still want to go away from that system. It's not the best. It loses value. They're doing inflation. They're monetizing too much of the federal budget. So that's not good. And they monetize a lot of the state budgets through government spending and funding the state budgets. But that's another subject. A lot of bad things happening, but they still have backing to the U.S. dollar. Anyway, but we could do a ton better. It's still not a good system, even though it's probably the best system ever devised. We can do a ton better. Anyway, the Federal Reserve will initially be the Federal Sector Board, but quickly the CRAs will send people up to staff that Federal Reserve, even elected officials. So that will happen. So we'll use expertise that's there. Hopefully they understand the system. And we quickly replace them with good quality people from the CRAs. The Federal Reserve will put all of its assets into an MCAP to back up the current U.S. dollars. The federal government might need to add assets of future tax revenue or other assets it has. We can go over that. You can look at my debt page on my website. The Federal Reserve Board will become the Federal Sector Board, but that's very temporary. Those people will be switched out by CRAs staffing up the Federal Sector Board. Within a few months, CRAs will fully staff the Federal Sector Board, including the leadership, including some elections. The Federal Sector Board will be very mechanical, very accounting-based, very straightforward math and accounting job. The federal rating system deals with integrity issues and will ensure honest valuations and proper audits. Only state-qualified MCAPs will and must have an account with the Federal Sector Board, so it's just straightforward. State MCAPs will digitally send to the Federal Sector Board the other currencies and receive theirs back. Every day, MCAPs will either be heavy or light, thus will be able to shop for assets or they lose assets. Okay, this is just an example of one state. People who like Hayek or Mises or Friedman, Williams, Volcker, Greenspan, Bernanke, Powell, just names I gave some of the MCAPs. People who like those people who creates an MCAP. And the valuations on there. If you want to stop and read some of that, you can. But the Federal Sector Board will handle roughly 1,000. This is an example of maybe one state's worth. And the Hayek's MCAP, okay, I'm not going to get into all this right now. It takes a little bit more explanation. I'm already at 55 minutes, so let's see if I can finish this off. But you can read this if you wish. If people demand 10% of the currency in paper and coin, you have to give up 10% of your MCAP currency to the back dollar. You get the back dollar in exchange for the MCAP currency. Then you give it out to the people who want the paper and coin. So it's all explained. It's all even. Nobody's making anybody do, well, I'm not saying they're not making anybody do anything. You have to stay within the structure. You have to have some of your currency backing up the BD. That way it keeps it as an average. Okay, the practical use. This is a shorter video here, so we'll finish off in a minute. People will choose what bank they will do business with based on many factors. Banking regulations and stability of the currency the bank uses will be big factors. So they're going to want to make sure they have a stable currency and good banking regulations to attract customers to the banks. Prices will be listed as a BD. All currency units must be the same as the BD. So that's just repeating it. All currencies must be easily transferred, meaning one of standardized digital coding, which means you have to easily transfer assets back and forth. You can't just say, oh, I gave you Alaska currency. You have to fly out to Alaska, go find this one storeroom and get the gold out of it or whatever. No, it has to be easily transferred. There's a lot of mechanisms to do that. That's just, I'm not going to go further. It has to be easy. And the Federal Sector Board creating the BDs, that's going to make it super easy. The bank or the MCAP only needs to deal with the Federal Sector Board, not all 1,000 MCAPs. So every MCAP doesn't have to sit there and have a relationship with every other MCAP. They have the relationship with the Federal Sector Board. So that makes it a lot easier. Contracts will, now they're going to have a relationship with them as a way of transferring assets back and forth. And that can be done. That little physical warehouse I was talking about, or digitally ownership of a stocks or bonds. Contracts will likely use a BD, but could use a specific MCAP. You can make contracts say whatever you want to, but I think most contracts are going to use a BD because that's going to be the most stable. MCAPs will likely develop financial instruments called stabilizers that allow people to accept more of the risk of a currency fluctuation, so other people using the currency have very stable accounts. So I'm sure that will happen. The BD cannot have inflation. You just can't have inflation with this. Okay, I'm going to go over all 9 sections again. Just as a review, creating the monetary currency asset portfolio is super important. The operations of MCAP, how money goes in and out, the back dollar, how it's the average, the gain and loss. That's super important to understand. The MCAP settling up, that's important to understand how that's going to work. It's mostly going to work through the Federal Sector Board creating the BD, but the settling up is a straightforward ownership rights. Assets of an MCAP, we described that as very wide open. I doubtful it's going to be too much fine art, but fine art could be put in there, but that's a little bit more risky. Keeping the value of the assets honest. I gave you a quick explanation of a couple of the ways to do it. Some people will not think very much and think, oh, they can just put finger paints in there from the kindergarten finger paints and call it worth $1 million. No, not really. That's dishonest, and there's mechanisms to stop that. The Federal Reserve and the transition, how we do that transition, it can happen. There's a lot more to be said on that, but again, I'm at an hour long already. Practical use of the competitive currencies, we talked about that. I separate all government power into 30 sectors. So you see 15 there. Here on sector 19, you have the banking sector. Well, that's sector 18. Did I mess up on that? Maybe I did. Anyway, that's the banking sector. And then you see the other sectors, but we separate all power. Structure of the CRAs, if you want to talk, look at that. Look at those videos. Go to my website and look at that. But you see some of this. I'm not going to explain this, but this is one MCAP dealing with these businesses would be the banks and stuff. Sector board, that's more like the federal sector board, having relationship with all these CRAs. And because it's federal, this will be times like 100 states. So 1,000 MCAPs. Parent sector board, not really relevant within this for monetary policy. The rating system is going to be important. You give trust to your rating agency. The rating system is going to be important. It's going to stop you from having low integrity or fraud issues. And that's going to be super important for some rating floors. The rating system, parent sector board, not really relevant within this structure right now. Obviously, it's relevant, but not really important right now. And I'm not going to go through that again. Okay, 1 hour long. Got it in within 1 hour. So hopefully you understand everything. Go to my website. Look at my monetary policy. I'm going to have all these videos up there. And you have the 4 or 5 pages that are bullet pointed of exactly what these the structure is. So until the next video.